of Marketing Unleashed. I'm Jeff Sieh from Manly Pinterest Tips, and I'm so glad you guys are all here with us today. We have a fabulous show. I think this is a return guest because we've had her on before, so it's good if we ask somebody to come back. So what we want to do is we want you to sprinkle the love across the interwebs. Let other people know what's going on here, and if you are like, hey, this is really good, I need to have my friend come into this, feel free to mention them down below. Even if they can't make it in, we've got the replay. It's awesome. But Elisa Meredith, how are you doing today?
Yes, Jeff Sieh. I am doing very well. How are you?
Good. It's good. We're getting some rain here in Texas, so I'm hoping that's
the wind is howling here. We're in that
that's
that
scary.
tropical storm.
Every
tornado
time
watch.
we have a show, you got cats flying around.
That's
You've got all
sirens
sorts of crazy
blaring.
stuff. Yes.
Aircraft shaking. Yeah.
By the way, before we get too far into the show, and by the way, as we're going along today, make sure you drop in your comments down below. And if you have any questions, we're going to bring those up on the screen today as well. But first, a little thing we want to bring up at bit.ly/TW social selling. That's bit.ly/TW social selling. This is a new webinar that Elisa Meredith has put together, I believe.
I did.
And tell us all about it.
Yeah, so it is all about how to use the big three socials for selling. So Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. All three of them have a very high conversion rate for sales. How to use them to get people to find you, right? So awareness to consideration to conversion and all the way to activation. So that the first time they see you all the way to the time where they are just telling everybody about you for free, which is exactly what we want. And it's like how to get there.
Very, very cool. So make sure you go check that out. All right, brought it up there. bit.ly/TW social selling. Before we introduce our guest, I want to give a shout out to Nina saying, hi, all. Hi, right back to you, Nina. And our friend from across the pond, Brian Farrell, says, good evening, y'all. That's right. We're from Texas today. Y'all from the northwest of England on this beautiful summer's evening. That's it's not raining in England, so that's always good.
Very peaceful.
So introduce our guest, Elisa.
Introduce our guest. Our guest is my friend, my fellow curly girl. Yes. We haven't gotten our curly girl conversation out of the way, so I don't have to make any promises. But she runs the Become a Blogger Genius Facebook group where you can become a blogger genius. And she and her husband developed a tool called MiloTree, which is going to play in very nicely with our topic today. Welcome, Jillian.
Oh, hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me back.
Thrilled.
Yes, this is awesome. So
and
we've got people.
both of you guys have been on my podcast,
right.
the Blogger Genius podcast. So I feel like, we're all in the family.
It's like the circle of life. So big shout out to Carrie. We love it when people watch our show because they're avoiding something they do not want to do. What else if you don't want to do something, come join our show. Carrie says, hello from Ontario, Canada, where I'm avoiding my bookkeeping. Man, I avoid bookkeeping like the plague, Carrie.
Yes.
So, and then, wow, Chantal says, hello from the Caribbean.
Ooh, I want to be there.
Everybody wants to be there right now, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
do you think we need a new tagline for our podcast? Maybe like the show to do.
When there's nothing else better to do, come watch our show. Yes.
Wow. So we have a really cool topic today, and I know people are excited about it. I saw Brian shared it on Facebook. Thank you very much. But it's how to grow your followers on Pinterest and beyond, which feels like it needs kind of a movie trailer.
Yes.
To it. Yeah.
So why are we wanting to do this? So are we going to start with Pinterest and then move to the beyond, or are we going to start with the beyond and then final up on Pinterest?
Oh, I think we should start with the beyond, like the overall picture.
Okay.
Right?
I like that.
Sometimes you feel like in general, I'm talking to myself, right? Or maybe my mom likes something, or maybe I can ping Jeff and get him to like it. So how do we get those followers? And maybe the first question though is like hotly debated always, do followers matter?
Yes. Well, I would always argue, yes, they do. And the way that I love what you were saying, Elisa, about how to use different social media platforms to get people to get to know you, to like you, and to kind of come down your funnel and hopefully buy from you. Well, I like to think about social media posts as top of your funnel. Like you're hoping to get this piece of content in front of people that know you or people that don't know you. And one way to do that is by growing your followers so that your community is larger. So you've got a bigger pool of people and that your content's really easy to discover. So that's where hashtags and things like that come in. But yeah, like your followers, especially if you're growing engaged followers, followers that are really responding to your content, it's like your pool of people grows as your followers grow. So I would always argue followers do matter, but it's not just any followers. It's engaged followers. It's followers that connect with you, that have similar problems that you understand, that you've got solutions for. People that get your vibe and like you, if you're a mom and they're moms and you speak to them, like that's the world that you want to grow. And I would argue the best way to do it is with followers.
So I always hear, oh, it's good for social proof, which is whatever. But with let's say like followers on my Facebook page, let's say I have, or on my Pinterest, I have 30,000 followers on Pinterest, but all these platforms seem to be narrowing the window for organic, which means like people who follow my page, it's, what is it? I think like 6% of the people actually see your content that you post on your.
I think it's smaller.
Yeah. Well, there went.
I think it was 6%. I think it's now down to like 2 or 3%.
Yeah. So, I mean, those people signed up to follow my stuff, and we'll just use Facebook as an example. They are down to 3% or whatever who actually will see that stuff, and they want me to pay for it. So do followers even like for having your stuff being seen, should we buy followers? What should we do with that? Because it just seems like everybody talks about the death of organic reach. So I would love to know your thoughts on that.
Well, first of all, it used to be like followers was the end of the story. How many followers do you have? Brands would just look at your followers and say, hey, you've got a ton of followers. We want to work with you. And it didn't matter where you got those followers. You could have gotten them from Russia,
Right.
But today, it's not just followers. Followers is not the end of the story. Yes, there is social proof. 20,000 followers looks better than 200 followers. But it's now much more about connection. And followers enable you to connect with people who are like-minded and who will potentially buy from you or who will actively engage with your content. It's a little bit like followers help you, real followers help you break through the noise because, and this is very true on a platform, let's say like Pinterest, if I have a lot of followers that love my content, my followers are going to see my content typically first, and then they're more apt to like it and interact with it. And that signals Pinterest to show that content to more people who aren't my followers, which then helps me grow followers. So Instagram is the same way. Instagram's looking not just at your follower count, but we want to show content that's relevant to the person who's receiving it. And the more you get that feedback, the more people are responding to what you're creating, that's when you can get that flywheel going.
I'm all about the flywheel. So
yes. I want to share a little something from that one of the studies we did earlier this year, specifically on Pinterest. So we looked at those 2 million accounts that were creating pins in November and January. And we looked at the ones who were getting higher than average engagement over that span. Those people who were getting higher than average engagement, their follower count was over 50,000. So like when we asked, does follower count matter? Like we all like to say no, but the fact is it does matter.
Yeah,
it does matter. So for example, we have a site called Catch My Party, and this is how we ultimately built our pop-up app that grows your followers, because what we realized was we were pinning to Pinterest and Pinterest was sending us traffic. And we said, hey, we need to grow our followers on Pinterest because, again, we want the Pinterest algorithm to know that our account matters. People like it. So we built this pop-up app to grow followers. Well, guess what? It worked because people would typically come from Pinterest to our site, see our pop-up that says follow us on Pinterest. They've already got that proof. And then they would follow us and we use it. And currently, no joke, I was just looking, we grow about 500 followers a day on Pinterest, organic followers. And we currently have, no joke, I think it's 1.6 million Pinterest followers. So again, that's like that idea of it's not just any follower. It's people who are interested in beautiful party photos who see it and go, yeah, no, I want to see more of that. And that's that connection that you're looking for. So that's where when you're this is that idea of people will say like niche down or know your niche and really serve your audience with solutions for things they're struggling with. That's where that becomes important, even for follower growth, because you want to be like, I'm Jillian. I solve this specific problem. If you're the person who's struggling with that, come with me because I'll hopefully guide you on this journey and make your life better. So it's no longer just about I'm throwing random content out there. I'm hoping to grow followers. It's much more about intentionality, and followers do matter.
Yeah. So I want to circle back to what you had talked about community and how important it is. I want to here's just an example, like Sally Howe. Amazing. Hello, everyone. She's here almost every week. And the same with Brian and, Rocky's here. So I know these people. Know these people. They know each other. They show up for this thing. This shows that Facebook, okay, this live video is something important, and it shares it out to more people. One of the things that I think that's one of the reasons I love live video, and I brag about this community so much that I want it so badly for my other shows, because you guys here in the Tailwind community are amazing, and you support each other and you talk to each other and you show up every week. So, but that has come with, how long have we been doing this show, Elisa? 3 years?
We need to look back, but I think 3.
So I mean, it you just don't flip a switch and create community. It's like what Leslie was saying, how it's something that you're putting out content that's good and people are showing up and you're talking to those people. And somebody who's talking to us, I want to bring him up. We've talked to him before. Brian says, my following on Pinterest is growing at a steady 12-ish people per day, but my monthly views have steadily dropped by about 2 million over the last 6 weeks. 2,000, I think, man, 2 million, that's a lot. So, but my outbound clicks are holding fairly steady. Does this mean Pinterest is getting better at figuring out my audience? I'm about 18 months into Pinterest. What say you two?
Ooh, I love that insight that Brian offered, right? Does that mean Pinterest is getting better at figuring out my audience? Yeah. So if it's showing to fewer people, and it did drop by 2 million, he says.
Oh, wow.
So yes, but so showing the content to fewer people, but still getting the same number of clicks. Yeah, it does sound like not only is Pinterest getting better at figuring out your audience, but you are probably getting better at attracting the right people.
Yeah. And if it's converting more, that would be interesting to figure out too. So he says it's holding pretty, outbound clicks are holding fairly steady. So,
and again, think about what is your goal? Chances are your goal is traffic. So therefore I'd be less inclined. I wouldn't be worrying about your reach, and I'd be focusing in on those clicks. What are they clicking on? And then to think strategically about what other content can you build? Like I always call it adjacent content. So this thing is killing it. Okay, well, what spin can you put on that piece of content that could either answer a slightly different question or go deeper at solving whatever problem you're solving or whatever? This is where I think I've seen things really shift. And you guys are speaking directly to it, which is people are showing up for this Facebook Live that that you've built relationships with. Before, when social media just kind of started, it was literally I'm on my own mountaintop and I'm yelling down to this group of people. And then it started to become much more about honing in. And today, I would say weirdly, it's called social media, but it's really now becoming person-to-person media. It's a way to talk to people, not communities, not audiences, people. And again, this ties into followers because the more I notice those followers that are my super fans and connect with those people, those are my evangelists. So the bigger your follower group, most people, you're one of thousands of people they follow. However, you will find those gems in there. And that's like where you kind of start to build those relationships, and then that continues to snowball, and you end up with this engaged group of people who do show up for you, who do share your Facebook posts, who do see the value of what you're providing. So think small, and from that it grows bigger.
Right. Yeah.
That's a great point. So shall we jump into some of the ways to some tactics and things we need to do to get followers across all the networks?
I want to bring up one point though, because first Brian was 2 million. And I love how Brian just went, yeah, it's 2 million. He didn't freak out. Like most people would lose 1,000 people and oh my gosh, Tailwind's horrible. It's all their fault. No, I'm just teasing. But he's just yeah, I lost 2 million. Am I doing the right thing? It's steady. I mean, he's very calm. That's what I like his attitude. Okay, let's look at the data. Let's find out what's going on. Everything's okay.
Yeah. And again, there are seasons, Elisa, you and I talk about this a lot. There are all these external factors. There is seasonality to the platform. There are errors in terms, you talk about this a lot, don't always trust your analytics, watch for trends.
Check sources. Yeah.
But, same thing, every so often, let's say Facebook or Pinterest or Instagram, they clear out bots who are following you, and all of a sudden people will be so people who, let's say, use MiloTree will email me and they'll be we use your service and my Instagram followers dropped by 2,000. And I'm going, I promise you, that's not MiloTree. That's probably Instagram. So there are a lot of things, and we want to find causations, but who knows? Again, in this situation, the fact that people are clicking through on your content, to me, would be very reassuring. I'm doing something right. I'm connecting.
And Brian said he did freak out until he looked at the traffic. So yeah, there you go. So he's not perfect, but yeah, so very interesting.
We still love you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's talk actual things to do to grow followers across all your socials. Who wants to go first? Julie, why don't you go first?
I will go first. Okay, so should we break it down by different platform? Because I feel like platforms
We're going to do that later.
Okay, so this is just in general.
Just in general.
Okay, here is what I would say. I feel like a broken record, but it is all about intentionality. It is all about how do I connect the dots? And what I always say is, start with, what do I want my followers to do? Do I want them to click on my website? Do I want them to buy from me? Do I want them to share my content? Start there, and then start building backward to say, well, what kind of content can I create that gets me to stand out? When you're scrolling through Instagram, for example, and you go, oh, that's nice, that's nice, that's nice, that's nice. And we talk about this with Pinterest. What can I create that stops the scroll? Now, there are kind of more gray hat things you can do, which is be kind of negative or alarmist. People like that kind of stuff. But are there other ways that more productive ways that you can do it? And one thing I recommend always is keeping an eye on what other people are doing on the platform that you find inspiring, that gets you to stop your scroll, and then see if you can use some of their strategies in your promotion, in your social media posts. So for example, on Pinterest, there's a lot of herd mentality. If I'm in this space, this is the color scheme of all the people in this space who do let's say female entrepreneurship always has kind of pinks and grays and those kinds of colors. Well, is there a way for me to, instead of going, well, these are the colors I need to use, could I experiment with different colors? Could I experiment with different headlines? And the other thing is call to actions. Follow me. It's so simple and yet so overlooked. follow me on Instagram for more, but it becomes, this is something I talk about all the time. It's not about me. Don't follow me because I'm, amazing. No, follow me because I can help you. I can make your life better. That's why you should follow me. And that's like the piece where we do coaching groups, and it's like so interesting because every single time, I will look at what they're doing, and every single time I'm going, no, it's not you, it's them. You are the conduit to make their lives better. And if you can focus on doing stuff that kind of creates that stops the scroll in some way, where I'm focusing on you and I'm giving you a call to action that's very simple. Those are like the basics for how to get people to follow you.
That's good. And, every time I hear somebody talk about, stopping the scroll, and you kind of alluded to it a little bit, was the with Jennifer Priest. Our friend Jennifer Priest talks about she was doing stuff and it was all IKEA things, and IKEA is all white and the wood and stuff, and so she just did an experiment where she flipped and made the background black, and she just got all sorts of clicks on that thing because it still fit. She still fit in the aesthetic, but she changed the background so it popped on the Pinterest feed, which I just always think about as it's genius. And that's exactly what you were saying. How can we get people to stop the scroll, look at the trends, and seeing if, okay, that font, but what if I changed the color and made it really pop out, or did a video when everything else is, static, or all that stuff. So I think that's really, really important.
And look at what other people are doing. Again, not to be, not to copy, but to be inspired. What is making you pay attention? What words, what emotional words can you use? Like a couple things, use emotional words, but also so simple. We overcomplicate things. So it should, like one message, one solution, and follow me. Boom. Like it's actually, it's like less is more. And I totally believe that because we are all so bombarded. It's funny. I'll read somebody's blog post to give them feedback, and literally I go, make it simpler, shorter sentences, more space between paragraphs. Like, this is easy, but you don't think about it because you're in the midst of writing this and you think it's brilliant. And it's like, no. Let it be so easy for the person consuming your content.
That's yeah. So I'm going to interrupt this last question, and then you can go. But I'm going to put Jillian on the spot here. So where do you go to get inspired? You mentioned going and looking at other people's stuff. Is there like a favorite brand that you like to look at, or is there a favorite thing that you go to, like on, let's just narrow it down to Pinterest. Is there somewhere you go to?
I literally do searches of some of our top posts. No, like top themes, like baby showers, for example, because I want to know what trends are happening. So I will go to Pinterest, or I will search some hashtags on Instagram and be like, what are the current trends? And then just by doing that, I start to see all of this stuff, and it starts opening my eyes, because we all do get into ruts. This is how this works. This is what a pin looks like. This is how, the kind of heading I create. And it's really hard to shake it up, to step out of, because we have all these systems in place and there's so many different tasks we have to do that you want to streamline it. And so sometimes it's just about getting inspired and seeing something new and going, why don't I try that? So I like to just scroll through Pinterest mindlessly, and Instagram. Those are usually the two places that I go. Or I will do, like, for example, I really want to rank for mermaid parties for Catch My Party.
Me too.
I know. Like, they're just so beautiful and popular and stuff. So what I do, I go to Google and I type in mermaid parties, and I see, like, what's showing up. What are the top 3 posts? What are they doing that I'm not doing, where I can up my game? Because maybe my mermaid posts feel a couple, like, maybe that we wrote them 2 years ago and we've been updating them, but maybe, they're like things kind of jump and maybe I've missed whatever that trend is. And so that's what I try to do is really stay up on what people are doing. Like, for example, I had just read that Instagram now is going, wait a second, sharing square boxes might be a little boring for our audience. And maybe we really need to kick up we're competing against TikTok. TikTok is very entertaining. It's like, you kind of scroll through your feed on Instagram and you're like, oh, that's pretty, that's pretty, that's pretty. You go to TikTok and you're like, whoa, people are so talented. That's so funny. It's amazing what people can do. I'm so inspired. And you can see that Instagram's going, hey, we got to get with the times here. And I feel like as creators, we also have to stay up on what's happening. What are people doing that is so creative that I might not have thought of? So do be willing to change, to try, to test. I mean, that's the other thing that I am such a big proponent of. If you are not running lots of different tests and hoping, no, like this is what's weird. You want to be failing at your tests because that means you're running a lot of tests. Most of the time your tests are not going to succeed. So if you kind of put that into the equation, like, okay, I'm going to try this crazy thing. I'm going to change the color of the pin to black and see what happens. And it might fail and that's okay. But I'm going to try again. And I'm going to, now I'll do purple. Now I'll put my heading at the bottom. Now I'm going to use fewer words. Now, who knows what it is, but just be constantly in there testing.
That's a great point. I made Mia laugh about the
Hey, Mia.
the mermaid, but it's been hard to fit into my mermaid swimsuit.
I get it.
After
believe
COVID,
me.
I mean, really,
Believe
it just
me.
can't fit into those fins anymore. So,
I know, but mermaids are so inspired. Who doesn't want to be a mermaid?
I know. So, what was your question, Lisa? I'm sorry, I interrupted.
Okay, so not really a question, but I really feel for the people who are like, I have 2 followers. Why am I going to go out there and start talking? Well, just do it. Like, just show up in a tiny little way and use other people's audiences, right? So yeah, you need to show up for yourself so that when people come check you out, they'll have something to see, right? And they can decide, oh, I want more of this. I'm going to follow you. But you don't have to do it all alone. And I think that keeps coming up on this show as a major theme. Like, don't let other people help you. So what I mean by that is like join Facebook groups, get involved in conversations on Twitter. I mean, choose them carefully, but there are a lot of conversations on LinkedIn. You can join in. And if you are doing this in a meaningful, thoughtful, useful kind of way, people are naturally going to check you out and follow you. And don't forget like Reddit and Quora. Sorry, go ahead.
No, totally. And here's the thing. What is good about having 2 followers is get your face on video. The stakes are really low when you've got 2 followers. And the better you get at it, then more people will be drawn to it's awkward. Like doing, let's say, doing Facebook lives, doing, going live on Instagram, even doing reels and being goofy. Who knows? Like it's weird. I just did a podcast episode about this. Like, don't think that those experts don't think it's weird. Don't you think that? Like even coming here, like I'm like, oh, I'm like, how do I look and how's it going? And there's you can't help but find that there's an element of awkwardness about it. But the more you do it, the more comfortable you get. So use this time to test and to try and to push yourself, and to be out there and to be engaged. This is the other thing. Engaging is awkward and weird. I don't know this person. I'm going to risk it and post in a Facebook group. But know that you're not alone if it feels uncomfortable. And it's a lot easier to go, I just won't do it. But push yourself to do it. Like you will, that's how you start to build that momentum. Because I know, before I come on this, it's weird. And I'm like, oh no, I hope I come off well. And I hope you guys like me. But then I know I've done this a lot. So most of the time it goes well. And so I'm going to just assume it is. And so that's where you get that experience under your belt so that you can just keep doing it.
And haven't you noticed that when you feel really good about your content, like the material and what you have to share with people, it's easier to get outside your own head and think about them and what you have to share. And that really takes the pressure off of, oh, is my hair frizzy or do I sound dumb?
Oh my God. I will say that is my secret. Like that is it, which is weirdly my desire to help people grow successful businesses is bigger than my insecurities. So if I can put my brain into the mindset of I'm a helper, because I am a natural helper. So if I can be helping, then the other parts of my brain, which are still there, but they get quieter because I have a larger purpose. So if you can tap into your larger purpose, and again, this is where it all comes to like, what is my purpose? Like, what am I trying to accomplish with my content? Who am I trying to help? If you can put the helper hat on, I think it is a very freeing hat.
Oh, I love that.
And I love
the
so hashtag embrace the weird. So that's what we're
Embrace
trying to
it.
do. Yeah.
And the discomfort and the
Well,
awkwardness.
they say that you don't ever grow unless you're stretched. And so, you think of, at least for me, everything that I struggled with is actually, that led to the next stage in my business. Nothing was easy. Nothing's ever handed to you. It's always like, oh my gosh, okay, I've made the decision. I'm going to go live. Even if nobody shows up, I'm going to do it. And then things happen. And that's how you continue. Nothing is ever handed to you. Everything good happens with being uncomfortable, I think.
Oh my God. Hashtag uncomfortable. I feel like I live my life as an entrepreneur, hashtag uncomfortable. But I'm willing to kind of push myself off the cliff. Like that's the feeling. So, and I've been at this since like 2009. So you'd think like, oh, she's got it. It's like, no, it's like there are days where I have to be like, talk myself into it and go like, because I'm an introvert. So it's not like, I get off on helping. I don't necessarily want it to be like the Jillian show. That makes me very uncomfortable. Some people get like that. I'm like jealous of those people. So for me, it is about a lot of self-talk and a lot of saying, you know what, I'm going to fail and it's all right. What's the worst thing that can happen? And this is that idea of like why you want to be experimenting and assuming most of your experiments are going to fail. And that's part of it. That's part of the learning. So again, hashtag uncomfortable. And again, as we come out of the pandemic, how uncomfortable do you feel? Like it's weird.
I know it's hard to put on
Everything is
pants.
weird.
Yeah, wearing pants again is just a big
Especially if they
hassle.
don't fit anymore.
So Drop the Weasel says this. He goes, I think it could be a fine line between looking goofy and looking like an idiot. That there is a fine line. And Mia Voss, who I have known forever, and we're going to talk, I want to bring her as an example up later, but she goes, hashtag embrace the weird, hashtag be all the time. So
absolutely. But here's the other thing. And I share this with my coaching groups and I share this with my 14-year-old daughter. Here we go. Nobody cares about you. We care about ourselves.
Yes.
So true.
And that's weird. And it feels a little bit like, how could she say that? Because like in my life, I'm number one because I'm inside me. So I'm seeing the world through my eyes, but you're seeing the world through your eyes. So the truth is maybe you're like, wow, Jill's hair is not great today, but then you've moved on. Like you're in your own life. So what we think of as like a big mess up or something super embarrassing is so infinitesimally small to somebody else. So that also is a way that it frees me to go, at the end of the day, they're not really paying attention. So it's okay. And the more I can be the helper, the more success I have. And it gets me out of me and gets me into making your life better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jeff, do you want to share one of these tactics?
I just listen. I just listen to you. That's my tactic. I listen to Elisa Meredith and
Just
Jillian.
do whatever Elisa and
Just whatever they
Jillian
do. No, I think the helping thing and getting over yourself and learning for others. So, for example, we brought up some things from Mia Voss, and I've known Mia back in the Google Plus days. She's one of the Wild West people, and Google, if you guys don't know, did the live video stuff before anybody else. And she was one of the first people that I ever saw go live. And I did a bunch of free stuff for her. And I did a bunch of, just interacting with her. And she helped me got me on her shows. And through that kind of led to my own show and all that kind of stuff and where I am now. So, but that was from giving. And, and Mia is very much of a giver and wants to help other people, bring them up. We did Star Wars Day back on Google Plus. I mean, all sorts of fun, crazy, Wild West, getting out there, out of your comfort zone. She had mentioned earlier that she's a ambivert, which is an outgoing introvert, and I feel like I'm the same way. So, but I think doing things that are uncomfortable, like it's still, and Lisa and I have talked about this before, but still every time I go live, I still get nervous. And I do a weekly show for I don't know how many years. I still get nervous, and I think that's a good thing. And I think that, and I still like, oh my gosh, my beard's not looking good today. What, people are going to say something, and
Nobody ever does.
but nobody does. And so you just have to get over yourself. And I think that's the biggest takeaway is like, man, you only go around this marble one time. So try some stuff. And, like Jillian said that, most people don't really care.
They don't. So, it's
make connections.
To my 14-year-old daughter, that's always shocking because it feels like, but I say it's so true. Like, go back to your inner 14-year-old and like how you think everybody's looking at you and nobody's really looking at you because everybody's so obsessed with themselves. And I think that's been a really good lesson for me. And the other thing too, and just like just being here with both of you, like you are my friends, genuinely. And there is something to building real relationships on the internet. Like that's one of the magical things about the internet. And I want you both on my podcast, and I'm here on this show. And yeah, we help each other, but it's like, I want to hang out with people that I really like. So find those people, because Jeff, like you were saying, then you can help each other. And even if you in the beginning are just, who knows how it's going to pay off, like not be thinking about it from that perspective, but to really be thinking about it like, I want to be with like-minded people. Right. I want to be with people who see the world the same way I do, who want to help others grow businesses. Like that's really exciting for me. And so doing this conversation, it's like, I'm also getting to hang out with my friends. Like what could be better?
Right. And do business with people you like. Yeah, that's amazing. So Amia says she needed that pet talk today. Mia, you're awesome. Hope you feel peppy after this talk.
Yeah, and Mia, I'd love to connect with you because it seems like you're doing some cool stuff.
You guys would like each other. Mia's a cool person. So
Mia, I will find you on Facebook and direct. But it's that, like, we're all looking for those connections, and I have found, and like you guys can tell me, like the internet can be, this potentially like destructive place, but it can also be magical. And people, like, it's amazing the people that I have met through the internet, and we do help each other. And again, it isn't as transactional as that sounds. And so it's about like putting out abundance and putting out kindness and generosity. Like I always say to people, please reach out to me. Like I'm at Jillian. In fact, I'm at Jillian at milotree.com. I'd love to hear from you. And most people don't take me up on that offer. And I read all my emails and I get back to you. And if you have a business question or whatever, and I love like when people come on my podcast and I'll say, how should somebody connect with you? And they'll be like, here's my email address. Like, come connect with me. And that's what's so cool about the internet and finding those people. It's like you can help each other grow.
Well, we're getting really deep today. This is like, I want to lay down on my couch and let Jillian talk to me some more. But so by the way, speaking of things that are good, make sure you guys go check out the amazing webinar that Elisa's put together at bit.ly/TW social selling. You don't have to lay down on a couch, but it is very positive. It is very good for you. So go guys, check that out at bit.ly/TW social selling. All right, let's move on.
Let's move on. Okay, I have another one.
Uh-oh.
Okay, show up, be consistent, and use a scheduler, because I promise you, if you don't, you won't be showing up on regular.
Absolutely. We're too busy. And the more you can automate things, or the more it could be a Monday is a this kind of day and a Tuesday is a this kind of day. And there will be days where something comes up and you can't necessarily keep to it, which is why, though, having something like Tailwind, which we use in all of our businesses, it's like I can schedule it beforehand and I can kind of set it and forget it. But yes, consistency. Let people be like that. They know that you're reliable. So for example, you guys show up once a week and do this show, and my podcasts go live at midnight every Wednesday morning, and it's not negotiable. And so it is like people will know that you're there for them. And you're signaling to the algorithms that you're going to show up. You're signaling to your audience that you're going to show up, and you're showing up for yourself, and you're treating your business like a business. So that you can't wake up in the morning and go, you know what, I can't get out of bed today. It's like, oh, well, it's Wednesday, and Wednesday's the day I do this.
Mm-hmm. Wednesday, what is today? Thursday? It's the day I take a nap after the show. So so I want to circle, because we've been talking about kind of abundance and being there and community kind of aspect. So I want to know, let's talk about sharing other people's content, because I think this is important, because Elisa and I have gone over this for years, back and forth. Should we, should we not? And I think it depends on, one, the platform, two, and we've talked about size of your audience as well. So Elisa, what are your thoughts? And you can go down, let's go down by platform. Let's start with the big one. Start with Pinterest and then go down through the rest of them. Sharing other people's content, is that important or not?
On Pinterest, not so much anymore. No. So you need to focus. I know. Isn't that sad? It used to be a really great platform for curation. Now it's really about creation. So you kind of need to shift mindset there. Of course, there are things you can do to get followers on Pinterest, which we'll talk about in a minute. But on Facebook, I mean, I think back to the show we did with Holly Homer, remember? Yeah, it was a really great show. And with her page, she shares so much content every day. There's no way she can write all that. So I do think it's a good idea to share other people's content, not just because like your readers will appreciate it, but they also appreciate it, right? So you might make a connection that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what you think? So here's people are saying, we've already got people chiming in. Is it okay this is Megan says, is it okay to share others' content if you don't have enough of your own yet? And I think she's meaning Pinterest.
Sure. Oh, on Pinterest? I mean, it's not going to hurt you.
Right.
Right.
I still like doing it because and Brian, it's the same, if it helps his followers, because I still think it makes me look like I know what I'm talking about if I share smart people like Elisa and Jillian. And I just think it's goodwill, and I think goodwill always comes back in the end.
And one thing too is whenever we start a board, and let's say we don't have enough content for that board, we will put some other useful content in that board, just so that if somebody comes to our page and they see it, it feels full and it feels helpful.
Yeah.
Well, it also gives Pinterest a signal about what's going to be in that board, right? So you have some context in there. Yeah. So there is some use for it. On Instagram, I think, within reason, but I see a lot of people sharing stories. If somebody talks about something that resonates with you that you think your followers would like, yeah, sure, share it. Just always make sure you give proper credit. I don't know, what other ways would you share content on Instagram?
Well,
do you think you should?
Well, like for example, if somebody tags me on a story, then I'm always sharing that. Oop. Excuse me, sorry about that.
That's all right. I would have zoomed in for the sneeze cam, but
I always want to share that kind of stuff. And again, think about it. If somebody had commented this, and I think it's true, if there is something that is useful for your audience and adds value remember, I'm here to solve problems for you. So I might have my own solution, but if somebody else has an excellent solution, there might be value sharing it. But to share it with some sort of this is, again, it's like, I like what Jeff was saying, like there's just goodwill So think about, is it worth it, and is there goodwill for my audience? And does it take a lot of time? If it's going to take a lot of time, I wouldn't do it. But if it's easy to do and there's value there, I would do it. And if it would help build a relationship, I would do it. But again, it's not necessarily a formula to get you more followers directly. You know, it used to be like on Pinterest, you were supposed to share other people's stuff, and it was going to, like, that the algorithm would potentially like that. So I wouldn't be thinking that way. But I would be thinking about creating complete solutions. And if somebody else's content fits in with that, great.
And I think there's another way to also, and I'm going to take it from, since I do a lot of live shows, what I kind of do with my stuff. So like for Social Media News Live, the other show that I do on Fridays, is that when I chomp up those pieces of content later to share out on social, it's never me. It's always the guest that I have on answering a question. And so to me, that's sharing other people's contents, but it's my show. But for me, whenever I get anybody on, and even if I'm doing an interview show or something like that, it's always about the guest. You know, even like, you know, I want to make, like when I'm talking, I want, when Julian's talking, I want her full screen. I want it to be on her, you know? And so, I mean, those kind of things that you can, that are kind of subtle of the way you do it. And even if you're like a guest on somebody else's show, you know, asking them questions too, not just like taking all the time, like, so what do you think about this? You know, as, you know, bouncing it back to them. I think those things get noticed, and then, you know, you really are sharing other people's content, but in a way that may still be under your own umbrella of your brand or your podcast or your business or something like that. But I just have found that works wonders, one, for opening doors and getting better guests, or, you know, contributing writers or whatever it is. When people know that it's not always about you, it's about who you've got on there. And you're, like Jillian has said the entire time, helping people. That's the whole reason people are attracted to you, is that it's all about them. It's how can you help me? And if you're giving them that, everything rises. So those
Jeff, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to pull out something Jeff said about adding something to it. So when you do share someone else's content, pull out a point that you appreciated, or a question that you have, or maybe you don't completely disagree, you don't completely agree with part of it. You know, going to be nice about it, obviously, but add something to it rather than just sharing a link. And that reflects really well on you at the same time promoting that person.
Right.
I think that, Jeff, building on what you just said, I think there is something today to this level of authenticity, and it's hard to hide. Like, you guys show up live every week. I see your faces, I hear your I hear your banter, and like maybe for a week or two you could fake it. But at the end, but right now, like, I know you because I really get to see you. And I do feel like you guys lead with so much generosity, so much help, authenticity. Like, it feels like real, like you connect genuinely with your audience, and that stuff is contagious. And so be willing to show your vulnerability and be willing to put yourself out there, warts and all, weird hair and all, because you become human. You know, and so like there's something, because we're all human. It's like why I share, like, I always feel awkward going live, because I want you to go, she feels awkward and she's doing it. You know, maybe I can do it. And I think the fact that you guys show up and that you guys are genuine friends, and it shows, and you know, and again, I think, by the way, anybody I talk to about Tailwind always talks about the people. And how smart they are. Who was I? I was talking to somebody recently about it. How smart they are, how helpful they are, how genuine they are. Like, you guys are approachable. And you put a really nice face on a company, you know? And so know that stuff matters. So it's less about your hair, and it's more about being, helping, but it's also being authentic and sharing all that you are, because people can smell that inauthenticity. And today, in a world where you're kind of expected now to put your face out there, know that that's a good thing.
Yeah, Julian, you can smell the authenticity right here, because it's hot in Texas, I tell you, in my office.
I was going to say it may not be about the hair, but I think it's a little bit about the beard. I mean, we got to give credit to the beard.
That's just like if this guy can do it and show up live, then anybody can. All right, so we've got about 10 minutes left before we wrap this puppy up. So let's talk about a little bit. We've talked about what to do. Let's talk about, okay, Julian, what are some things that you see people, let's take blogging, because that's kind of your kind of big specialty. Mm-hmm. What are some mistakes that you see bloggers make that, it may take them like a year and then like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did this. I should have not, what's the biggest mistake you see a blogger do when they first start out?
I would say not think about your niche and what problems you're solving. Recognizing that there's a difference between a blog that's a hobby and a blog that's a business. And I think that as bloggers, we're like, well, this is my blog and I can do whatever I want with it. And absolutely, you can do whatever you want with it. But if you want it to be a business, then there are certain things you need to focus on that are very different. If it's a hobby, and if it's a blog, you need to show, if it's a business, you need to show up consistently. You need to be a helper. It can't be about you. You need to figure out what problems your audience is having and serve up the best solution possible. You need to be consistent. I don't know if I said that one, but it becomes a job, a good job, like a great creative job. But it is about putting things in place where you know what the goal is and everything is intentional and makes sense. A lot of it is doing the thinking up front. So it's not just throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what sticks and hoping. And I always say this, as a blogger, you're going to start a blog. It is not the case that like all of a sudden bags of money are going to fly through your window just because you're a blogger. You have to be incredibly strategic to really build a business. And it is a long road. It is not a get rich quick scheme.
Mm-hmm. It's a marathon, not a sprint, right?
It is a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's not the Jillian show, it's not the Elisa show or the Jeff show. Like it is about the audience, putting your audience first, putting those relationships first.
Mm.
Sometimes Jillian, I hang out on Quora or Reddit to see, are there any questions I can answer? That's also a great way to build your social media following, especially if you include those links at the bottom of a very helpful answer. And I'm surprised to still see people asking, does follow, unfollow, or follow for follow work on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, whatever, Twitter? So that is still a topic of conversation. What do you guys say about that?
I would say in the short term, yes. And in the long term, no. So I do feel like, you follow somebody and Instagram makes it easy for somebody to follow you back. But again, it goes back to this idea of you want authentic followers. You want engaged followers. So it's almost like junk food, go follow 1,000 people and you might get, 20, 30 followers, something like that. But are those the followers that are going to stick around? And even if they stick around, are those the followers that are really going to engage with you? It's so much better to find accounts that you really like and reach out to them and make a connection. Chances are that person will then follow you and then feel this, like they've built a relationship with you. Like that's what you want. Another thing too is do not buy followers. Like do not, that was a thing for Instagram in a certain time just because all people thought about was followers. But now, no, like don't. That can really hurt your account. Those fake followers, they're not going to engage. That's what Instagram wants. Like think about it always from the point of view of the social network. Instagram wants people to have a good experience on Instagram. And the way that your account, like the way that you get good, juice from your account is Instagram sees people love what you're putting out there. So if you put out stuff and it's crickets and you've got 100,000 followers, that's not valuable. Like Instagram's not going to be promoting your account. You have 5,000 followers, but people love what you do. That's what you want. That's so much more valuable to you. Yeah. So the kind of shortcuts ultimately can really backfire is what I would say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
All right. So I want to do a lightning round where the three of us give our top tip for getting followers on Pinterest, Facebook, and Instagram. And I'm just throwing this out at you now, but I'm going to give you a second to think about it because, well, only you, Jeff, because Jillian, I wanted to ask you about MiloTree. That is the number one tool I think of when I think, okay, what tool can help me grow my following on social media? It's MiloTree. So what is it?
Okay, so, and by the way, it's not just followers. Again, it's engaged, authentic followers. So MiloTree is a pop-up app, like a pop-up, that you install on your blog. It could be a WordPress blog. It could be any kind of blog that you own. You could even install it on a Shopify store, but you can't install it on an Etsy shop or like your Facebook page. But if you own your blog, you install it. It's a little piece of code. We have a WordPress plugin, and all it does is it pops up when somebody comes to your site and says, follow me on Pinterest, and shows your most recent pins. Follow me on Instagram. You can use it to subscribe on YouTube. Follow me on Facebook. You can use it to say, join my email list, which is a whole other thing that I think is super valuable for growing your business. But here's what's cool about it. It's somebody who's come to your site, seen your content. They get a little prompt, super easy. It says, follow me on Pinterest. Click the button, they're on your Pinterest page, and they will then follow you. And from our internal stats, if somebody clicks on your pop-up, there's like a 90% chance they will follow you. So it again is quality of content on your blog, quality of content on your social media account. And if all those things are connecting, you've got new followers. So this is working 24/7. I think it's one of the best ways to grow your Pinterest followers. For example, especially if you're getting a lot of traffic from Pinterest, somebody's coming to your site via Pinterest, and now they are seeing something that says, follow me on Pinterest, they're more apt to do it. And what you always want to be doing, especially with a platform like Pinterest, how many times do you go to Pinterest for a recipe? And if somebody were to say to you, where'd you get that recipe? You'd go, Pinterest. And you wouldn't go, oh, it's from this blog. So what you want to always be doing is getting somebody to stop on your site and kind of pay attention to you. Like give them, like what I always say is if you can then turn them into a follower, you've kind of collected them into your universe so that you can then start building that relationship. And it's not this one-off thing where they're off your food blog and they're never to return. So MiloTree, by the way, we have to discuss this. Google is going through all of these changes and they care so much now about site speed and performance. Right. Well, we use MiloTree on Catch My Party. So you better believe we care desperately about performance. And we make sure that MiloTree on your blog will not slow down your site. It will not interfere with any of your stats. Like you will not be in any way penalized via Google. We make sure of this. So you can really trust us. Super easy to set up. You can get it up on your site in 2 minutes, I think. And by the way, we offer 30 days free. So try it and see what you think. Now, if you have no traffic to your blog, MiloTree is not necessarily going to get you a lot of followers. It's not magic. It's taking your existing followers and taking your existing traffic and converting that into followers. So just know that if you've got nothing, it can't magically give you followers. Right. But it's a really great tool at taking traffic, taking visitors, those one-off visitors that don't really, that might never come back, and collecting them and bringing them into your universe.
That's awesome.
Great. Yes, you need to try it.
So before we wrap up, because we have this from pull over and time out and let me out. That's a good one. Pull over and let me out from YouTube series. I love your podcast, Jillian. So can you tell people where they can find your podcast and how they can listen to it?
Totally. It is called the Blogger Genius Podcast. That's what I want to help everybody become, a blogger genius. And you can find it anywhere. You can find it on iTunes. You can find it on Spotify. You can find it on Stitcher. Just search the Blogger Genius Podcast. And again, I have this Facebook group called Become a Blogger Genius. And I go live in there every Monday talking about my newest episodes. Again, my episodes come out regardless on Wednesdays at midnight. I guess Tuesday. I don't know.
Yeah,
Tuesday. At midnight,
In the morning, early.
Wednesday morning. And really, it's all about how to grow a blog, how to grow an online business, very much what you guys do. In fact, Elisa, you are my most, I think you've been on my podcast 5 times. You
Holy
are
cow.
Oh no, really?
the guest who has been on the most. Jeff, as I'm talking to you, in fact, I'm like, Jeff, I need to have you back on my show. So
Of course.
hopefully you'll come back on. Because again, I'm always trying, like the reason why I love Elisa coming on and she comes on so regularly is she updates me on what's going on Pinterest. Pinterest is hugely important to our business and Instagram. And there's Elisa with the most cutting edge information. So I want to like always be spreading her message. And also what are you guys doing on Tailwind? Like how can that continue to help us as publishers? Because we've got so much going on. So
That's awesome.
So please, like, find me on the podcast.
So somebody asked, how can we find it? Well, you can go to all those like Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, all those places, and search for the Blogger Genius Podcast. And will you do us a big favor? Would you give Jillian a rating and review? Because that really does help podcasts out, helps them get higher up on the SEO of podcast directories. And so if you would do that, give her a rating and review, that would be awesome for us. And as always, Elisa, we're at the end of our time, but you get the last word.
Goodness, we didn't even get to do our lightning round.
We never
We'll have
do.
to-
We
Oh,
never
no.
do. You ask too many good questions.
I do. Well, I don't know about good, but I get lots of good answers. Last thing. Yeah, absolutely give MiloTree a try. I believe that there is a way to see how it's impacting your followers, right? Jillian?
Yeah, so we have
You can see if it's
analytics.
working. Yeah.
We have analytics and we'll show you how many people are clicking on
Yeah.
your pop-ups and how many new followers then you get.
Yeah, great. Yes. And then also the webinar, Bitly TW Social Selling. I'd love for you to check that out. There's a PDF on there that I like even maybe better than the recording that you can just walk through and help you fill up your entire marketing funnel with social media. Yeah. Yes, the shows are getting faster. There's never enough time because you all are wonderful.
Yes. And with that, we'll see you guys next week. Have a great one. Bye, everybody.